Once upon a midnight dreary, while I pondered, weak and weary, over many a quaint, curious volume of forgotten lore, while I nodded, nearly napping, suddenly there came a tapping, as if someone gently rapping at my chamber door. "'Tis some visitor," I muttered, tapping at my chamber door. "Only this, and nothing more." Live from the new media studio here at beautiful Valley High School, this is Falcon Flash. And good morning, students and staff. Today is Tuesday, January 29th. The quote at the top of the broadcast, as many of you know, is just the start to The Raven, which was published on this day in 1845. Written by Edgar Allan Poe. Poe is an American writer, poet, critic, and editor, best known for evocative short stories and poems that captured the imagination and interest of readers around the world. His imaginative storytelling and tales of mystery and horror gave birth to the modern detective story. Many of Poe's works, including The Telltale Heart and The Fall of the House of Usher, became literary classics. In 1841, Poe launched a new genre of detective fiction with The Murders in the Rue Morgue. His literary innovations earned him the nickname the father of the detective story. A writer on the rise, he won a literary prize in 1843 for The Gold Bug, a suspenseful tale of secret codes and hunting treasure. Some aspects of Poe's life, like his literature, is shrouded in mystery, and the lines between fact and fiction have been blurred substantially since his death. Let's learn more.
Edgar Allan Poe was a master of the macabre. He wrote horror, he wrote poetry, criticism, fiction, mystery. He was a master of suspense.
Edgar Allan Poe, called by many the father of the detective story, was born on January 19, 1809, in Boston, Massachusetts.
When Poe was 2 years old, his mother passed away, and his father had already abandoned the family. He was taken in as a foster child by the Allan family.
He was writing poetry from about the time that he was 13. He kept writing all the time. He worked very, very hard at his writing and wrote constantly.
In 1826, Poe enrolled at the University of Virginia. He went into debt, he gambled to try to pay off those debts, and found himself in even greater debt, and ultimately had to withdraw from the university. In 1830, Poe enrolled at West Point.
After West Point, Poe turned to writing full-time and lived in a number of East Coast cities before settling down in Richmond, Virginia.
Edgar Allan Poe secretly married his 13-year-old cousin, and then in 1836 publicly married her in a more open ceremony.
He loved her very, very much. They lived together always until, alas, she died of tuberculosis when she was, I guess, around 20.
Poe's primary occupation as a writer was as a literary critic. He worked at several newspapers and literary magazines, and he had quite a reputation for being a harsh critic. One of his editors called him the Tomahawk Man. During his lifetime, he barely made a living from his writing.
Poe published some of his most famous short stories in his 1840 collection, Tales of the Grotesque and Arabesque.
He wrote some of his stories using the first person and talking about the use of opium, so people assumed that he dabbled in drugs. The stories were so creepy. They were ghost stories taken to such a brilliant extreme that people thought he had to be a little strange himself.
Poe invented detective fiction when he wrote The Murders in the Rue Morgue in 1841.
Murders in the Rue Morgue really deserves to be called the first detective story. It started the whole tradition of detective fiction.
The Raven, which was published in 1845, was his huge breakthrough. It became a big bestseller.
Poe's career very much went up and down until he really hit The Raven. And that poem was known by, it seems everyone in the world. It had an enormous press.
On October 7, 1849, Edgar Allan Poe died at the age of 40 under mysterious circumstances.
Poe's death may be one of the most bizarre things about his life. He left Virginia on his way to New York, disappeared. A week later, he was found on the streets of Baltimore.
We don't have a single piece of information about what he was doing. At the end of that week, he was found in a tavern, ill, drunk, and was taken to a hospital.
It turned out he was wearing clothes that didn't belong to him, and a couple of days later, he died in a delirium. Nobody knows exactly what killed him.
Edgar Allan Poe's legacy in American literature is very detectable in all of the mystery dramas and stories we have, and all the kind of horror and vampire work that we see, that there is that trace of the sort of horror and mystery that Poe really was able to harness in his writing.
Poe is an American icon. I think he's more than a writer.
Even today, more than 150 years after he died, everybody loves Edgar Allan Poe.
The Raven, nevermore. Our picture of the day was taken in one of our ethnic studies classes as students work collaboratively on a variety of art projects that will include a mural that showcases our historical struggle for equality and justice for all. If you're putting your talents to use in your classes, capture it digitally and send it to me, and you may have our next picture of the day. And now, of course, Solace is here with today's Falcon Flash.
Good morning, Falcons. Here's today's Falcon Flash. Bible Club meets today during lunch in room 10-1. Pizza will be provided, and all are welcome. Reminder to all students gearing up to take the LPAC test next month. We have tutoring sessions available every Tuesday and Thursday afternoon in Building 4. Stop by in and get prepared. Speaking of being prepared, our counselors are visiting sophomores and freshman classes this week to help everyone get ready to sign up for next year's classes. Did you know that for your English class, you have a choice of what to take? At the sophomore level, you may choose to challenge yourself to an honors level course. At the junior level, we offer AP English Language with Ms. Hollenbeck, or for seniors, we have choices such as ERWC, Film, Literature, and AP English Literature. If you need to know more about any of these options, you can get your questions answered by the counselors or the course recruitment fair next Tuesday. There's a new school dance coming soon. Let's head to the lunch area and find out more.
Dude, did you go to homecoming? No. That was time to get at school. Did you not hear, dude? It was at the Anaheim White House. Really? Yeah, dude. ASB is stepping up their game this year. Well, ASB might, but people at the school are whack. People like you that don't show up and participate in classes make it whack. I'm just waiting for the next guys.
Did you guys say anything about the next guy?
Yeah, dude. I was one next guy.
The new dance, February 21st.
What?
Barbecue buffet and dessert and a DJ too.
Oh, you'd be at school.
Yeah. It's not. It's at the Orange County Mining Company. Great view, amazing food for $40. $40. Compare Godinez dance. Godinez dance is $40 at the gym.
At the gym, dude?
Yeah.
And we're gonna have it like in an outside venue?
Dude, check out the pictures. Amazing, bro. I'm telling you.
Dude, thanks, dude. I can't do that so high.
Hey, wait.
How do we dress?
What's a nice restaurant? Just nice.
Dude, thanks, bro. Thanks, bro.
Oh, pick up your trash shoe.
Oh, you're right. Dude, did you go?
That's right, folks. Just $40. We have an off-campus dance at the Orange County Mining Company that includes a full barbecue buffet. The dance will be on Thursday, February 21st, but tickets will go on sale Monday in the ASB.
The football banquet has been relocated to Valley. The new date is Wednesday, February 6th at 4:30, and there's no cost for players and their families. More info will be announced, and be sure to make it to the gym and the pool deck for girls basketball, and girls water polo. And that's it for today's Falcon Flash. And remember,
Falcon Fever, catch it!